Ranchu are considered to be the king of Japanese goldfish, and today I'm going to be delving into their history. Goldfish was first introduced into Japan a bit over 500 years ago from China. They were brought to trading posts in western Japan, especially the city of Sakai, which was the center of trade with Japan and China at the time. It is thought that the first variety to come from China was goldfish closely resembling today's Joaquins. For several centuries, goldfish were expensive and rare, owned by only the nobility, samurai, or wealthy merchants. About 2 centuries from their introduction, from the late 1600s, goldfish began to spread to the common people, even though they were still expensive at the time. From 1600 to 1868 was known as the Edo period. This was because Japan's capital was in Edo, modern-day Tokyo. During the Edo period, Japan was almost completely closed off from the world, with trading being restricted to few ports. Despite Japan's isolationist policies, during this time, a few additional varieties of goldfish did manage to enter the country from China, and maybe even Korea. One was the Maruko, which the Japanese used to create the Ranchu. Another was the Ryukin goldfish, and the third variety was the Oranda, which was believed to have been brought over from China by the Dutch, who was the only Europeans allowed to trade with the Japanese at the time. Because imports were so few and far between, the Japanese began breeding their own goldfish. In the beginning, goldfish breeding was a hobby for the wealthy. Many of the feudal lords was fond of goldfish and encouraged their breeding. Many distinctive Japanese varieties was created, known as the Jikki. Leading samurai retainers also bred goldfish in an attempt to gain favor with the feudal lords. During the Edo period, the government tried to enforce strict regulations against luxury, and at the time it outlawed the keeping of goldfish and confiscated every goldfish that they could find. These fish would then find their way into the collections of top government officials. Towards the end of the Edo period, the wealth of the feudal lords and samurai began to decline. Many were forced to encourage local industries to supplement their treasuries. Goldfish breeding was one such industry. This resulted in greater availability of goldfish and their spread among the common people. At first, most goldfish were produced in western Japan, in the regions surrounding Kyoto and Osaka. In the first centuries after their introduction to Japan, goldfish were kept exclusively in ponds, ceramic pots, or large wooden tubs. World War II brought great destruction to Japan's goldfish industry. Several rare varieties were completely lost, and it would be some years before the goldfish industry recovered. The post-war years saw the second wave of new Chinese varieties imported to Japan. Japanese breeders continued to cross local varieties in order to produce distinctive new kinds of goldfish. In 1951, a calico Ranchu called an Edo Nishiki was produced by crossing a Ranchu with an Azuma Nishiki. 2 longfin Ranchu varieties were also produced. One is called the Shukin, which is just a normal longfin Ranchu, and a long-tailed Edo Nishiki called a Kyo Nishiki. But these 2 varieties never gained the popularity of the normal Ranchu. Written records suggest that linehead Ranchus may have existed as early as 1765, and Ranchu contests were held in Osaka as early as 1831. The Ranchu that we know of today is the product of at least 75 years of selective breeding.